Hello everyone, TMMgamer here, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you another one of my FIFA 13 formation guides. Now, as you can see from the image on the screen right now, today I'm going to be covering 4-3-3. Now, 4-3-3 is another really popular formation. You see a lot of people use it, and a lot of teams use it. And as you can see, France's default formation is a 4-3-3. So, if you play enough online games on Ultimate Team, or just on career mode, or head-to-head seasons, whatever, you're going to run into this formation a lot. So, it's a very popular choice. But unlike the two formations I've covered before, which were 4-2-3-1 and 4-3-1-2, 4-3-3 plays quite differently to these formations because the two formations that I've just mentioned rely on dominating the midfield, controlling the centre of the park, and then moving forward with passing movements to cut the opposition apart. 4-3-3 lends itself to a lot more direct style of play, and the main reason for this is the wingers, because 4-3-3 is a formation where the wingers play much higher up the field than a lot of other formations. So the great way to make use of this is through long diagonal balls over the top. And you see, on the counter-attack in this game, I use that ball a lot because it's a really good way to quickly get the ball upfield as fast as you possibly can and take a lot of players out of action. Now, the guy I'm up against, who I think is playing as Manchester United, he's pretty tight defensively. It wasn't really working to knock the ball in and around, and I'm going to get onto the reason why that might be in a little bit. But the great thing about 4-3-3 is if you let players come onto you and soak up pressure, you can counter-attack very effectively, and that's because whatever time you get the ball back whenever you're on defence, the great thing is you will always have someone free up the field, and that is a great example right there. That was really good timing. You saw that I broke the ball down in the middle of the park and got my first goal through one easy long through ball over the top, and it's just a very simple but effective tactic. 4-3-3 really does lend itself to very simple attacking play. You can sit deep, absorb pressure, and then when you win the ball back, the chances are that either your striker or one of your two wingers is going to be in space, because the vast majority of the time they are right up against the back four, and whenever your opponent sends his fullbacks up the field, he's going to leave your wingers in acres of space. And just as I go and say that, look at that for another example. His fullback advanced up the field, it left my left winger in absolutely acres of space, and I managed to put a ball in the box and create some pressure. So 4-3-3 is an absolutely brilliant formation for playing on the counter-attack. However, it does have a few things that you really need to bear in mind. You need a lot of pace on the wings, because the whole point and benefit of this formation is to be able to quickly exploit gaps on the flank. So if you have slow, lethargic wingers or wingers who can't cross the ball, you're not making any advantage of this formation. You need to have a team that can really counter-attack well and put balls into the box. And that's why France are a great team to play this formation with, because they've got Jeremy Menez on one wing and Franck Ribéry on the other. And Franck Ribéry is an absolute machine. I mean, 90 rated. He is incredible on this FIFA. Really good player. So if you haven't used 4-3-3 and you're kind of struggling to think of a way to play, counter-attack really is the way to go, especially against a very good player, because although 4-3-3 does have a number of strengths, like I've mentioned there, it does have a couple of weaknesses as well. And first and foremost, its big weakness is in the centre of the park, because although you've got three midfielders in here, they are very narrow. And this is true in a formation like 4-3-1-2 as well. But the difference with 4-3-1-2 is you've got a centre forward / centre attacking mid. And although this doesn't sound like a big difference, having a player in this position can relieve so much pressure on your central three midfielders, because the centre of the park tends to get very bogged down in 4-3-3, and you see plenty of examples in this gameplay here where the ball's pinging around the midfield, no one's really in control of it, and then it breaks forward up the field and one of us has an attack. And just for a question for you, how on earth is that a penalty? That's one thing that EA still need to get a little bit sorted, the impact engine, but it's a lot better than it was last year. But anyway, let's back onto the formation. Like I was saying, sometimes the central three midfielders can get a little bit caught out and a little bit congested, and it's a bit of a problem. Like you saw there, my central midfielders got a bit congested, lost the ball, my opponent got up the field, and it ended up costing me a goal, although perhaps not through bad defending, but because the midfield couldn't dominate the ball as well as they can in other formations, it really just put me under pressure. And like I was saying about 4-3-1-2, the central three midfielders are pretty similarly set up. I mean, especially in Ultimate Team. In 4-3-3, the midfielders are a pretty flat three. In this formation, what I'm using with France, it's a slight hybrid version of the one you get in Ultimate Team. With a slightly deeper central of the three, and then the two either side of him pushed up more up the pitch. But in Ultimate Team, like I was saying, the three in midfield are pretty flat. Now, in a formation like 4-3-1-2, you have that centre forward there, and he really does play an important role because he can very, very easily take pressure off those three midfielders, because it only takes one decent little short pass and you relieve a lot of pressure. And the great thing about having that extra guy in the middle of the park means that if you are under pressure, you can just pass the ball out and it forces your opponents to put pressure on different players. And the real problem with this is you can get very, very bogged down as all of your midfielders occupy the same space. And when you've got three players on one team occupying one part of the field, you inevitably draw pressure from your opponent. So that's a little bit of a problem. You sometimes find yourself in a bit of a midfield quagmire. But once again, as you can see from that ball there, if you get the ball down early and get a guy in space, that long diagonal ball to a winger is on all day. But that again brings me to another thing you've really got to pay attention with this formation. Your central striker is absolutely key to making this tactic work. A lot of your play is going to come through the wings. So if you don't have a striker up front who's good in the air or strong or very, very technically gifted, you can struggle. I mean, what I used to do on a previous FIFA, and I have tried a couple of times on this FIFA, is play 4-3-3 with the Ivory Coast and have Didier Drogba as my central forward. And he really lends himself to this formation perfectly because he's really big, really powerful, fantastic in the air, reasonably quick as well. Drogba's no slouch, so he just makes a perfect striker for the 4-3-3. So that's one thing you've really got to bear in mind. If you do want to play this formation, pacey wingers and a powerful striker are necessities. You can't get away with not playing them because it's quite easy for two powerful centre-halves to just simply put your striker out the game otherwise. Because in this formation, the strikers can get a little bit isolated, and that's why I don't often use this one online unless I've got two very, very quick wingers so I can get away with it. Because if you do play an Ultimate Team against a guy who's a little bit more defensive, this formation can come unstuck a little bit because, like I was saying, you don't have too many players in the middle of the pitch advanced. So all of your three midfielders are sitting quite deep, and then you've got your three forward players, your winger and your two strikers, quite advanced up the field. And this leaves quite a big gap in between them. And the problem with this is, in broken play, you can just play one ball to winger and get away with it. But when your move slows down, you find it a lot more difficult to break players down with passing manoeuvres. And that's the real Achilles heel of this formation. It's absolutely fantastic on the counter-attack, but if you get a guy who really knows how to defend and really knows what he's doing, it's very, very difficult to pass it round. But like I was saying, if you're more of a defensively minded player, if you like sitting deep, and if you've got very, very pacey players in your team, especially on the wings, but also striker, it's quite useful to have a bustly striker. And I think Karim Benzema lends himself very, very nicely to this formation because he's more of a total striker. He doesn't have one unbelievable attribute. He has a lot of very, very good attributes. Another example of this is Robert Lewandowski at Borussia Dortmund. He's very, very good at a lot of things. He isn't just ridiculously quick or a ridiculously good finisher. He's quick, he's strong, he's good on the ball, he's a good finisher, and he's good in the air. He's a very well-rounded striker. And you need your striker to be well-rounded to play this formation because, like I was saying, you're going to be having a lot of crosses put into the box because of the wingers, but equally, because you don't have a centre forward or a centre attacking mid right behind your striker, you need your striker to be good on the ball. Because it's going to take a couple of seconds for your midfielders to advance up the field to get in support. And for example, that goal there is a perfect example. Karim Benzema managed to bring the ball down, get it under control, hold it for that crucial couple of seconds, and then play the ball through to the advancing midfielder. You're going to have to wait a little bit for your midfielders to arrive in support. And that's the one thing you've really got to pay attention to. It's brilliant on the counter-attack, but if you do get a little bit bogged down, you need your front three to be technically gifted to enable the support to come. And it does come eventually, but if you get used to playing, for example, a 4-2-3-1, and then shift onto this formation, you do notice a little bit of a delay, and that delay, it might only be 2 or 3 seconds, but in football, those 2 or 3 seconds can be the difference of a gap being there in defence, and then all of a sudden a fullback coming across to close the door. So this is a formation which is very, very effective at what it does, but occasionally you can get bogged down and you can turn into a little bit of a quagmire in midfield. So guys, that's bringing to the end of the video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I mean, I'm absolutely loving doing these formation tutorials, and I hope you guys are enjoying them too. But if you guys have any formations you want to recommend for me to do with one of these tutorials, and I'll quite happily do it. I've already got 4-5-1 penciled in at probably some point next week, so don't recommend that one to me. But if you've got any others that I haven't done so far and not 4-5-1 that you want me to do, I'll quite happily do that for you. But guys, once again, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, it would make a massive difference to me if you could click the like button. It helps new people find the channel and helps new people enjoy the videos. But once again guys, thanks for watching and have a great day.